Welcome to another episode of Real Estate AI Flash. I can't believe we're in 2025 already. And usually we have agents talking about their use of AI. Today we have a industry thought leader, and we have Saran Chatterjee, Senior Vice President of Product Management and Product Marketing of Realtor.com. If you recall, recently we had Cynthia Taylor from Zillow. So we're going to dig in with Saran about the things they're working on as far as AI is concerned. And in his role, he spearheads the strategic vision for Realtor.com's customer product portfolio. Additionally, he also leads product marketing, which is go-to-market strategies to make impact to consumers and agents. And prior to Realtor.com, he worked at a very small company named Google. Google's payments and fintech marketplace product growing it to 150 million unique users. I recently connected with Saran at a Realtor.com event, and we were having dinner, and I felt Saran would be great for the podcast. And here we are. We make things happen. So welcome to the podcast, Saran.
Thank you. Thank you, Rajiv. So good to be here. Really excited. And
Yeah.
Can't wait to dig in with you.
Yeah, for sure. So, I gave a quick bio. You have a very illustrious background. So if you want to just kind of give our listeners a quick run through of your journey and how you landed at Realtor.com, your backstory.
Yeah. Look, I've always been interested in product and technology, and my background is mostly product and technology. And, but the most relevant pieces of my background, goes back to kind of the good old days of Yahoo. Everybody remembers Yahoo.
Oh yeah.
When Yahoo was still Yahoo, and when there was this tiny search engine called Google that was just kind of making its rounds, and nobody even kind of gave it a second look. So I'm talking about that time, and that's where my journey started with Yahoo search. And then over the course of the year, the many years, it's mostly been focused on marketplaces. So I've started off in e-commerce marketplace. Then I went to a home services marketplace. That was my own startup.
Yeah.
I scaled that to many million users and many tens of millions of dollars in revenue. Exited that, and then did a fintech marketplace with Google in their payments business, and then bringing financial services. So marketplaces in my blood, and I guess real estate was long coming. And I was always fascinated by kind of real estate, especially in the US. I mean, globally, it's an evergreen sector. It's obviously got its own cyclical components, but it's a very fascinating sector. It's one of the largest ticket sizes, right, that any consumer would end up kind of buying. It's kind of the biggest purchase of their lifetime. And then how do you kind of really appeal to that user? How do you kind of build products to kind of really appeal to the user, and then connect them with the right agents, and then make agents successful in the process as well, right? So I found that problem to be really fascinating, and I'm here at Realtor.com. I mean, Realtor.com reaches more than 75 million users on a monthly basis. That scale excited me. The opportunity to kind of really make an impact in this real estate space and actually solve for some of the problems that we have. It's still very early. If you look at it from a technology adoption standpoint, it's still very offline-ish. The online parts of the transactions are still very small. So I feel, the scale and the opportunity for impact is why I'm here.
Yeah, no, that's a great summary. And you mentioned 75 million users or visitors. Is that right? That number?
Unique user.
Unique, yeah. And I feel like compared to the other two portals, I feel like Realtor.com is really well positioned because of the quality of the uniques that come from the media assets that your parent company owns and all of that your CEO Damien talked about. And I was very intrigued by how you guys are so well positioned. And and I say this publicly, with all the three portals, I think you guys Realtor.com is the one that's working the closest with brokerages as partners for all the things they're doing when the settlement happened, the stuff that they put out with the value of the buyer agent, all of the data, and what Mickey and your chief marketing officer and all the stuff that they're putting together as well. So I recently had a call with them also about some of the market stats that they've put out that we could co-brand. So again, that's an example of partnership more than competition with the field. And so anyway, this is an AI podcast, so we got to dig into AI. And I feel like we've just completed like 2 years of ChatGPT, and it feels like a decade for me, Saran. I don't know about you, like the evolution of that technology, and nobody's keeping up. Everybody's got FOMO. It's okay not to keep up, but you got to start somewhere, be
Yeah.
on that journey. So what was your first aha moment with AI and ChatGPT?
You know, as as I told you, right, I started my journey in Yahoo search.
Yeah.
And AI is, what you're seeing AI right now is actually generative technology, the
Right.
generative AI component of it. But I've been kind of, building products based, machine learning based products, back in my days from Yahoo search, right? So I kind of always understood kind of the power of kind of machines and being able to crunch and compute, gigabytes and terabytes of data, and then being able to kind of, build models on top, and then being able to kind of generate kind of whatever, right, recommendation systems, ranking systems, relevance algorithms, right? So that space was always fascinating to me. I think what kind of really triggered for me was when the whole generative AI the generative component of that AI kind of really
Yeah, for
came
sure.
into being, right? And I would say I was one of the early adopters. I was, I bought the paid product, right, pretty much from whenever it was available, right?
Yeah.
Because it was just so fascinating, right? Just to kind of see what are the capabilities. I think initially, like everybody else, right? I mean, we were all fascinated by what it could do. Any question you have, use it as whatever you want to use it. It'll give you a vacation plan. It'll give you a meal plan. It'll give you whatever, right? I mean, write a blog, blah blah blah, right? And it's only gotten better over time. But where I think for me the big aha moment was I'm again AI podcast. Most of your listeners probably are aware of the custom GPTs, right?
Yeah.
And for me, I think that was the first aha moment, honestly, because
Yeah.
that's where I kind of really, I started dabbling into building my own custom GPTs. And what I did was, there were use cases that I first felt that I needed help with. And, I would always try to reach out to somebody in my network, right? Hey, what do you have for this? What do you have for me? I was like, look, I mean, I have a constant thought partner with me now.
Yeah.
And I could tune that thought partner to whatever I want to tune it to. So for instance, I have a leadership coach.
Yeah.
I have like a gym expert.
Yeah.
I mean, things that I like, I have a tennis coach, by the way. And these are all AI, these are custom GPTs that I've built that I use and that I use as my thought partner. Anytime I have questions, it just gives me the kind of the right response. It's tuned to my likes, to my taste. So I think for me, that was the first moment for me, right? That how AI can really be that effective thought partner. And now it's gone into like so many different spaces, right? I mean,
Sure.
multimodals, and now we're talking of the world of agents, right?
Yeah.
I mean, agents in the world of AI.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, it's just fascinating. I mean, honestly, I mean, I have tremendous FOMO because I'm not able to catch up. Now and there was a time when I was on sabbatical and I was like just absorbing all of this like 24 hours a day. And now I just don't have enough time to absorb all of this, the pace at which things are evolving.
100%. And you mentioned custom GPTs. It's a good segue into we've published for all our listeners. I've created public GPTs for agents to use on listing presentations, to augment like writing listing descriptions, to understand fair housing, all of the things that you're minimizing hallucinations, video marketing, specific to real estate agents so they can use it and go. Even when the NAR settlement happened not too long ago, we had built a NAR settlement agent skills GPT that took the 109-page NAR settlement document, best practices, and you can just talk to it as a coach. To your point of coaching, and I still feel most people listening to us still haven't discovered the power of custom GPTs.
Oh,
and I think that is a box that's going to get opened in 2025 with like AI agents or a version of custom GPTs, just a little closer to you, right? You understand the tech more than most, but so that's good. So we also have a playbook, Saran, on our podcast website that has been viewed over 31,000 times with agents that have kind of how to get started with AI, prompting, effective prompting, all that stuff, and all the tools that we recommend and things of that nature. So this is a good segue. I mean, you're the first guest I've had. Most people's aha moments were like Thanksgiving 2022, right about there when ChatGPT came out. I asked it to write a listing description. That's where agents were like whet their appetite with ChatGPT. But it doesn't surprise me that being the tech you are, you were like custom GPTs is where it's at. And I think it was March of 2023 when the paid version came out.
The paid version came out. I mean, it's just mind-boggling. What it and it's evolved. Because I still fine-tune it. So again, I mean, shout out to or call out to all the listeners here. If you've not tried custom GPTs, that's something you need to get on. Like,
definitely, for sure. And we'll include a link in the show notes to the playbook with all the 6-7 public custom GPTs we have, and if you follow me, you'll get all the ones in the GPT store as well with my name. So the other one that I wanted to kind of call out was recently ChatGPT did the 12 days of shipments.
Yes.
And every day.
They're at day 7 or day 8, I think.
Well, at the time of this recording, it is day 7 is complete, right? And today came out projects, which was like you can kind of combine things. And I'm building one for my home, put all the home documentation in it so I can just ask it questions, right?
Yeah. I've been following that. Yes.
Yeah, and Canvas is a game changer for copywriters, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, even with custom GPTs now can be Canvas enabled.
Yeah.
So that you can sort of edit in flow and really use it the way you would edit anything. So this is cool stuff. So let's dig into Realtor.com. I mean, I was fascinated in our dinner was the second reason when we kind of started talking about this. But when you guys were presenting about the Realtor.com consumer experience and agent experience, that's the kind of stuff that I want to kind of dig into next. So floor's open. I would love to start with how is Realtor.com embracing the AI, Gen AI or AI component, doesn't matter, but to enhance the consumer experience and also the agent experience.
Yeah, and and I've been here for now 7-8 months, and Realtor.com, I think the appetite for deep tech in general is very high. So again, I mean, machine learning is nothing new at Realtor.com. It has been used for many years to solve for a bunch of different use cases. But if you look at it kind of generally, 2 areas, right? One, it's really focused on really personalizing experiences for our consumers, like really hyper-personalizing that. And that is, I mean, it's like massively unlocked now, right? With AI. That's one. And we'll talk about what we are doing there. And then the second broad bucket is like just really amplifying the experience for our agents as well, right? So how do we make our agents kind of, they have all these jobs that they need to do, right? From the time they receive the client details from us, right? A potential lead. From there on, right? It's a journey, it's a life cycle in terms of all the things that need to happen, and then we are constantly thinking about how do we kind of make that journey more automated, more seamless. Help our agents kind of really get better at what they're trying to accomplish. So it's really those 2 aspects. So now on the personalizing the consumer experience side, if you look at something as basic as so we launched something something called like similar. We talked about this at our event, right? I mean, like we call it kind of similar homes.
Yeah.
But it's like it takes all these meta attributes of of a listing, right? Whether how does it look, aesthetics, and all the other meta information, bedrooms, bathrooms, age, neighborhood, kind of taking all of that and saying, show me homes which are similar to this, right? And just being able to do that automatically, right? So now that is available on Realtor.com across our web and app, right? So what that does is it helps the consumers kind of really narrow down their choices, their preference very easily without having to kind of filter. And then what it does is at the time when they submit that inquiry now, that lead it's a powerful connection basically between the consumer and the agent, right? So that's an example. Second, I think something that is available on Realtor.com is kind of like this whole renovation designer, right?
Yeah.
So these are like visual tools, right? To basically to effortlessly simulate renovation. And if you think of it, these are just AI generated images, right? That are basically visualizing a renovation for your house. So it's your house. Upload a picture of your house, right? And then from there on, it's your creative imagination now, right?
Yeah.
Like, how do you want to kind of remodel your house, exterior, interior? And again, it's such a great tool, not just for consumers, but also like for agents, right? I mean, for an agent, when you're sitting with a consumer, like, how do you want to kind of, what are the kind of things you want to do? Like visualize kind of the changes that you might want to make to your house before you want to kind of put it up in the market, right? To sell. And then from there, it kind of gets into kind of, okay, what would something like this cost? But that's a big component, right? So now you can play around with kind of the changes and what the cost of that change would be, right? So again, I mean, I think I love that tool. I mean, the wife and I, we have already kind of used it many times, right? To kind of start to remodel our house. So I would highly encourage everybody to kind of take a look at that.
So if I could ask you, dig in a little bit at that level before you switch to another area.
Yeah.
How much are you guys looking at staging as well, like in specific rooms? Because there's staging solutions that are available that are AI driven, but renovation. I saw that when when we were at the event, and I was fascinated by the whole concept of renovation.
Yeah. So
Uh,
that's your next, like, it's a roadmap.
yeah,
It's a very, very natural extension, right? I
for
mean,
sure.
you would think that, you start with basic renovation, then you go into staging, right?
Yeah,
What would it look like? What would the interiors look like with X, Y, Z, right? Essentially.
yeah,
So again, I mean, in today's world with AI, that's a very, very easy capability.
yeah,
And then, things like semantic search, right? You start querying in natural language. What we are more and more users are now getting used to that paradigm, right? In this world of generative AI,
yeah,
just ask question in the language that you speak, in the language that you understand, and this machine will figure it out and give you the best responses, right? In whichever way you want to consume it, right?
yeah.
So I think those are the kind of things that you will start seeing from realtor.com. And now specifically for agents, if you look at it, right? I mean, if you look at that agent's journey, right, from the lead, like the biggest thing, right, is how do I build that personal connection with that client and win that client, right? That's the first goal, right? How do I win that client, right? Now on there's things that you can do if you're a listing agent. Then there are things you need to do on the listing side, right? I think you talked about listing descriptors, but in general, like, how do you kind of package up the listing? How do you kind of really look at kind of like the market dynamics, right? In terms of how do you price that listing fairly, right? In terms of everything that's going on, and then from there, how do you kind of start to go into the things like 3D walkthroughs, right? I mean, these are all technologies which are available, and these become much easier, right? On the with technology now, and then on in terms of just for a buyer's agent, right, to win the lead, right? Being able to kind of nurture that lead both on the buy and the sell side, right? I mean, just tools, right, to basically make sure that it's continuously, while you are busy engaging with customers, right? Machine is kind of following up, right, in an intelligent way, engaging in dialogues and making sure that they're priming that customer, right, and at a time when they're kind of ready to engage, right, and when they're kind of further down the funnel, make that connection, right,
Yeah.
with the agents, right? So that's what we call as nurture. The other thing we talked about at our event was the actionable insights. I mean,
Yeah.
again, that's the other thing, right, which is like agents, right? They don't want to know, like, if I just give me the top line view of how am I doing. They want to know the nitty gritty details, right? What can I do? What actions can I take to kind of really drive my business, forward? Like, how do I sell more? Like, where am I? Things like voice, being able to interpret voice and then give guidances, right, around what's working, what's not, right, in terms of that interaction that they're having, and kind of like the coaching aspects of the communication, right? So, and then just as I said, right, I mean, again, I mean, very early days, you'll start to see this not launched live, but conceptually, we're thinking about think of a team lead or a CEO, right, that runs a large team, and they want to know so much about their business. Being able to kind of really simple language query, hey, how's my business doing, and that's spitting out automated reports, right, for that team lead. Not every report can be pre-canned. Think about it, right? So then you start to imagine like these opportunities start to unlock.
Similar, Saran, it's similar to what you mentioned about semantic search, right?
Exactly.
On the consumer side, you could do semantic search on the business side.
Exactly. Sitting on top of data, right? I mean, all the data is available, and that data is like, there's so much hidden potential value that's sitting in that data. It's just sometimes that's just hidden there. Imagine now you're able to start to query that data in simple human language.
Yeah.
And you start getting like these massive actionable insights. Like, tell me the top 3 things that I need to do to increase my business 10%. And imagine the system being able to tell you, right? These are
100%.
Those 4 agents need to be, better, whatever, right? I mean, it's so fascinating. I can't.
It's interesting. We've come from a world, at least at our company, we had Google Data Studio reporting, right?
Mm-hmm.
Reports for everything, and you had to go to a tech person to build the report.
Yeah.
But now it's a level playing field. Once you have the data and it's organized in a certain format, raw data, ask it a query. Just talk to it. You don't need a certain report to kind of run that stuff. So I think it's going to change the way we look at data.
Yeah.
In a massive way. I don't think most companies are ready for that evolution.
Yeah. It's still early.
It's still early, for sure.
You don't need to be an SQL master.
No. Yeah, everybody's an SQL master, right? With AI, at some level.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's good stuff. I forget the name of the agent that was at the Nashville. I mean, they're from Nashville. They were at the Realtor.com event. Top agents in Nashville, husband, wife, large team. He's going to be on the podcast soon. I should remember his name, but anyway,
Gary Ashton.
Gary Ashton is hit. So Gary's amazing, right? Him and his team. So when you talked about semantic search, he's implemented semantic search through a company called listassist.ai, who I looked at. And I played around with it. I simply went to his site and asked it, I want to look for a 4-bedroom, 3-bath home in Nashville under $750,000. And just for kicks, I said, within a mile from a Starbucks. Show me homes within a mile from a Starbucks.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a fun search, and it showed me, and I actually went back in and kind of looked at the address and mapped it in maps to see if it was Starbucks. It nailed it. To your point, that's how people like to search. Maybe it's not the Starbucks, but it's a school or it's something they care about, because real estate has always been about location, and AI can power that, to your point, with semantic search, and not just externally to consumers, internally for businesses as well.
Right? Exactly.
Yeah. So good. Anything else on this before we go to the last 2 questions, Saran?
No, I mean, there's a ton of things going on. There's only a few things I can talk about externally.
Yeah, for sure.
But
I think 2025 is going to be a great year looking ahead for not just Realtor.com, just for our industry and agents as well at large.
Yeah.
So every guest, I ask a couple of questions that seem to be adding value to our listeners, because they send me, I brought that book, or I started evolving the practice. So you maybe are not an agent, but you interact with a lot of agents, you hear input. What is the one piece of advice you'd give them that could hold them in good stead if they implemented it? Or if you were an agent, what would you do in 2025?
Good question. I feel I'm still new to this space and I'm learning every day. But, if there's one thing, right, that I would, that I've learned, right, this business, is so much about building meaningful and trust-based relationships.
Yeah.
It is that at the core, right? And so it's like, okay, so now you start to think about, okay, how do you build these meaningful trust-based relationships, right? So, and then given this is a podcast AI, how do you leverage technology, right? To scale, just to scale building kind of like those networks, those relationships, and building that trust, right? And it's available, by the way, in terms of, we talked about this, right? There can be your AI agent, agent that is going to do the work for you, kind of continuously interacting and engaging with your customers and potential customers, and really engaging them and continuing to build that trust on your behalf. And then you kind of bring in that human connection as well on top of that, right?
100%.
So there's a combination of that. So I feel is just so relevant, and not just for agents. I think it's for all of us.
Everybody,
right?
I've always felt that's a great point. None of our guests have kind of come at it from that perspective, because I think I've been in the real estate space for like 20 years, and I feel like successful agents are amazing human connectors.
Yeah.
Are average at technology. And most of us at some level are average, unless we're like in technology, right?
Yeah.
And AI, I think, helps them automate the ordinary so they can personalize the extraordinary.
Oh, wow. That's so well said.
Right? Yeah. Which is really spend more time with the clients and let AI do the back end work for you to kind of warm up the leads in your case. That's the example you gave. So that's a great takeaway for sure. So the next one is book or podcast, right? And I don't know if you're a book or a podcast person, but we all have read enough and listened to enough. And maybe there's one or two that have really said, this has made a meaningful impact in your career. Is there one like that?
Yeah. So first, I want to say like a real shout out to your podcast. I think just for agents.
Appreciate it.
I looked at it. I looked at all the, all the interactions that you've had, all the interviews that you've done, right? All the podcasts that you've done. It's amazing. Like the confluence of what makes an agent successful and how do they leverage AI to be successful at what they do. I mean, I found that to be it's just such an amazing amalgamation of all the best that an agent can potentially have. And I'm not saying this just because I'm at this podcast. I actually looked at a bunch of different podcasts and I found that this had like the best content. So kudos to, what you and the team are doing.
Sure. Yeah.
So going back to what has shaped me, right? I'm more of a podcast guy, honestly. I mean,
me too.
If I'm doing books, I'll probably do audiobooks.
Yeah, Audible, yeah.
But the one podcast that has, I think, helped, and this is more of a recent phenomenon. Maybe I'll give you two answers. One, how that has shaped me. This is like maybe when I was like, I don't know, 13 or 14. I read this book by Jeffrey Archer of all the novelists, right? So Cain and Abel. And the reason I like that book, right? I mean, these are like, 2 two people born on opposite sides of the globe, but they have one thing in common. They are like massively ambitious, right?
Yeah.
One born with a silver spoon, other like born to like, in poverty, but they both make it like really big, right? And it's a story of ambition. It's a story of resilience. It's a story of hard work. And it's a story of humility as well, in terms of when you go there, when you stay at the top, how do you stay at the top and still be grounded in humility? And I think that I think profoundly impacted me and shaped me. So because I found over the time, I was just constantly fascinated by biographies and autobiographies, right? So just like to read about people and what has kind of been their secret sauce.
Yeah.
Like really understanding that, because every person has their own kind of, let's just call it the formula of life, right? And it's just so fascinating to understand the formula of life for each one of us. Like each one of us are unique in our own ways. So the podcast that goes well on that, like, you probably have heard that, like, the Tim Ferriss show, right? That podcast, he interviews a bunch of these people, successful people. I find myself hearing that a lot.
Nice.
For instance, right? Just learn from the best and see what best practices can you adopt, and how do you kind of use that to make yourself better. The other one I feel that I find myself listening a lot, and which may be a great one for agents. There's this one. It's called Think Fast, Talk Smart. It's a podcast. It's a Stanford lecturer in strategic communications, and he kind of really talks about, like, one, communication obviously is critical, right, for success in business and life. But he talks about all these kind of tools and best practices and techniques, right, that will help you communicate like 10x more effectively, no matter where you are, right? So I've found that to be kind of really, really kind of I think it has kind of really helped my learning journey.
Yeah,
we're all learning every day. I think that has really helped my learning journey.
Yeah, and a big part of being an amazing human connector is you got to be an effective communicator, right? Exactly. To your point, and we can't not learn and continue that on the learning journey. So great takeaways. Saran, I appreciate your time. I know how busy you are. Keep innovating and keep crushing it at Realtor.com. And I hope to see you sometime in 2025.
Thank you so much, Rajiv. It was so good to be here. And all the best to you in 2025.
Likewise. Take care.
Okay. Bye.